Hey, Radins here. Today I'll show you how to set up email addresses for your AWS domain at almost no cost. I've successfully implemented this technique for my domain, radin.com, and for two of my projects, increaser.org and georgiancitizen.com. This method is really straightforward, requiring only a single AWS Lambda function and doesn't rack up additional cost as you add more domains. Everything you need to deploy the solution, including the Terraform infrastructure and the Lambda function source code, is available in the RadionKit repository, which is a comprehensive toolkit designed to jumpstart full-stack projects within a monorepo. To minimize manual operations on the AWS console, we utilize Terraform to automate the infrastructure setup. This approach makes it easier to add email solutions for new addresses without much additional effort. Our infrastructure hinges on just four variables. First, there is name, which you'll use to prefix your resources. Make sure it's unique and descriptive. Next is forward to, where you should put your personal email address, like your Gmail, where you wish to receive emails. Then we have domain, which is a JSON list of objects, each containing a domain name and an AWS zone ID. Lastly, there is Sentry key, which is optional but useful for sending error reports to Sentry. To manage the Terraform state effectively, I store it in an S3 bucket. Before executing any Terraform commands, it's essential to set up environment variables. This includes AWS credentials, a description of the S3 bucket, and the necessary Terraform variables, which should all be prefixed with tf-var. Once the environment variables are set, we can proceed to initialize the Terraform project and apply the infrastructure changes. As I use an S3 bucket for storing Terraform state, it is necessary to specify the bucket name, key, and region in the Terraform init command. First, we need to set up the SES domain identity, which is essential for proving ownership of your domain to AWS. This step is crucial because it allows you to manage email sending and receiving capabilities securely under your domain's name. This verification is accomplished by iterating over each domain in the domains variable, creating an AWS SES domain identity resource for each. Subsequently, an AWS Route 53 record resource is configured with a verified token from domain identity to verify the domain. This Terraform resource AWS Route 53 record, named Amazon SES receiving record, configures a max records for each domain specified in the domains variable to enable email receiving. It sets the mail exchange server to AWS SMTP interface, specifying the AWS region dynamically, ensuring that emails directed to your domain are correctly routed to AWS for processing. The Terraform resource AWS S3 bucket named email storage creates an S3 bucket to store all incoming emails, ensuring they're securely archived in AWS. Once an email is received and stored in the S3 bucket, an AWS Lambda function SES forwarder notifies and forwards the email to a personal address specified in the forward to variable. Initially, a placeholder or dummy Lambda function code is uploaded using the AWS S3 object resource to store it in the Lambda storage bucket. This setup allows us to establish the infrastructure without the final Lambda code. Later, we replace the dummy code with the actual functionality. The dummy code located in Lambda index.js within our Terraform module is prepared by archiving it locally with the archive file before uploading it to S3. In the Lambda policy, we granted access for making logs, sending emails, and reading writing to the S3 bucket. We also allow SES to write emails to the S3 bucket by creating an IAM policy document. This allows SES to store incoming emails directly in the S3 bucket. To ensure the Lambda function triggers upon receiving an email, the AWS Lambda permission resource allows SES to invoke the function. Finally, the AWS SES received rule resource establishes a received rule for each domain listed in the domains variable, directing the handling of incoming emails to the specified S3 bucket and Lambda function. We've covered the setup of the infrastructure needed for handling emails via AWS. It's common to encounter errors when applying Terraform changes, particularly with Lambda deployments. If an error occurs, deploying the Lambda function manually and rerunning Terraform apply should resolve the issue. Additionally, you must manually add your forward to email address to the SES identities. This step isn't automated through Terraform because it requires verification by clicking a link in an email sent to that address, which ensures the security and ownership of the email account. Now let's examine the Lambda function code in the lambda.ts file. We start by setting up Sentry for error tracking to ensure any issues are promptly reported and handled. The function processes each record in the SES event by iterating over them and forwarding the emails to the specified address using the process SES event record function. In my projects, I incorporate the getEnvar function to manage environment variables efficiently. This function checks for the presence of the required environment variables and throws an error if any are missing, preventing runtime issues due to misconfiguration. The process SES event record function executes a series of steps to handle each SES event record. If an error occurs during the process, it calls the report error function, passing the problematic record in a detailed explanation to Sentry for more effective troubleshooting and context. The first step in the process SES event record involves retrieving the email from the S3 bucket using the getEmailFromStorage function. This function initializes an S3 client and executes a getObject command with the provided message ID to fetch the email. If the email cannot be found, the function throws an error. Additionally, since the return body from S3 is a blob, it's converted into a string for further processing. Next, the function checks the recipients of the email. I operate under the assumption that emails with multiple recipients are likely to be spam, and therefore I throw an error in such cases. If you prefer to handle emails with multiple recipients, you can set an environment variable containing a list of your domains. The function can then check if any recipient address matches one of your domains and forward the email accordingly. Once the recipient is determined, the format email function processes the email to prepare it for forwarding. This function ensures SES compliance by reformatting headers. It updates the from header to a verified domain, set the to header to the intended recipient, and manages the reply to setting. Additionally, it removes headers like return path and DKIM signature that could cause delivery issues. Finally, the forward email function sends the processed email to our personal address using the recipient's address. This function creates an SES v2 client and executes the send email command, which requires the destination address forward to, the email content, and the from email address, the verified sender address. Now we can deploy our Lambda by building the project, packaging it into a zip file, and uploading it to S3. After uploading, we update the Lambda's functions code using the AWS SLI to point to the new package in the S3 bucket. The project's build process starts with the clean script that removes any previous build artifacts from this directory and deletes the lambda.zip file. Then the transpile script uses esbuild to bundle, minify, and transpile the lambda.ts file into index.js, targeting Node.js environments and storing the output in this directory. With the infrastructure and Lambda function configured, you are ready to test sending emails to your domain. For example, with the radian.com domain, you could send emails to addresses like help@radian.com or radian@radian.com. Our step is designed to handle all variations, ensuring that each email is correctly processed and forwarded. Now that you've configured receiving emails, the next step is to set up the ability to send emails from your domain using your email provider. For Gmail users, simply navigate to Settings, then see All Settings and click on the Accounts and Import tab. Here select Add another email address. This process will require SMTP server details, a username, and a password, which you will retrieve from AWS SES. In the AWS SES console, under SMTP settings, create SMTP credentials. This will provide you with the necessary server name, port, and SMTP credentials to enter in Gmail setup, allowing you to send emails as if from your domain. That's all. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe.